Stop. Before you pull for any of the upcoming Genshin Impact characters, you need to hear this. Varesa is breaking records, Iansan is sparking debate, and Skirk just got a last-minute model change that no one saw coming. But what does this all mean for you? Should you save your Primo Gems or go all in? Stick around because we're about to break down everything you need to know, and trust me, you don't want to miss this. Varesa has got the beta testers talking, and honestly, it's easy to see why. If you love fast, flashy, and fluid combat, she might just be the electro DPS you've been waiting for. Varesa is designed around high-speed aerial combat, making her one of the most dynamic characters in Genshin Impact. Her kit revolves around Night Soul points, which fuel her enhanced state, allowing her to chain plunging attacks seamlessly and execute a devastating elemental burst. If you're a fan of fast-paced, aggressive gameplay, she's an absolute treat. One of the biggest praises from beta testers is how fluid and intuitive her movement feels. Her animations have been described as some of the smoothest in the game, and her plunging attack chains make her gameplay feel fresh compared to traditional electro DPS units. Testers have compared her running animation to classic high-energy characters, mentioning that she has a retro cartoon vibe, similar to Sonic the Hedgehog or Tom and Jerry's running movement style. All right, we've talked about how fun and fluid Varesa is to play, but let's be real. What really matters is how hard she hits. A character can have the smoothest animations in the world, but if the numbers don't back it up, they won't hold up in the long run. So, does Varesa live up to the hype? Beta testers have been going all out with these characters, pushing them to their limits. And let's just say, the results are pretty wild. When paired with C2 Xianyun and C2 Furina, Varesa doesn't just perform. She dominates. Her plunging attacks reached an impressive 230,000, and her elemental burst peaked at 320,000, showing just how devastating she can be with the right team composition. Even in less optimized setups, her plunging attacks consistently hit 130k, proving that she doesn't require a massive investment to be effective. Testers noted that her damage output remains steady even with suboptimal artifacts, meaning players won't need to chase perfect stats to get great results. Additionally, she requires at least 140% energy recharge to maintain a smooth DPS cycle without energy issues. This makes her one of the few fast-paced characters who can sustain their damage output without major downtime, allowing her to keep up a relentless assault on enemies. Pairing her with characters that enhance her energy regeneration or buff her plunging attack damage could push her potential even further, making her a strong contender for the top electro DPS spot. One unique aspect of Varesa is her synergy with other electro units. While she performs best with another electro character on the team, this isn't necessarily a downside. It simply means she fits well in compositions where electro application and reactions are key. If you've been struggling to make characters like Keqing or Sinnoh work optimally, Varesa might be the upgrade you've been waiting for. Additionally, her kit has been designed with a relatively low execution barrier. Even if you're not used to plunge attack mechanics, testers found her surprisingly easy to pick up and play, making her a great option for both casual and experienced players alike. After seeing how impressive Varesa is, you might be wondering, what about Iansan? Well, she had a lot of hype at first, with some players hoping she could finally be the long-awaited replacement for Bennett. But as testing went on, things started to look a little more complicated. On paper, her buff is incredible. In practice, it's a bit of a struggle. She requires constant movement while attacking, which sounds fun, until you realize how few characters can actually take advantage of it. Some testers joked that playing Iansan felt like being in a never-ending game of the floor is lava. The second you stop moving, you lose your buff, and suddenly your DPS takes a nosedive. Here's where things start to get a little frustrating. Iansan and Bennett just don't mix well, and that's a problem for a lot of players who were hoping she could slot into traditional team setups. Bennett's buff requires you to stay inside his circle, while Iansan forces you to keep moving, making them a frustrating combination. This contradiction in play styles makes it difficult to slot her into traditional teams that rely on stationary buffs. Beyond that, her team options are extremely limited. Unless you're using plunging attack characters or highly mobile DPS units, you'll struggle to make the most of her buff. This means that unless you build a very specific type of team, Iansan may feel underwhelming compared to more flexible supports. Ultimately, she is too specialized to fit into most team compositions effectively. If Hoyoverse adjusted her buff activation to be more forgiving, she could become a much stronger and more versatile unit. But as things stand, unless you already have the right team built around her mechanics, she might not be worth the investment. As we were wrapping our heads around Iansan's design, Hoyoverse surprised us with yet another unexpected twist. Skirk's model has been changed at the last minute. But what exactly led to this sudden adjustment, and what does it mean for her final release? Originally, Skirk was supposed to use the standard medium female model, like Ayaka, Hu Tao, and Farina. But now, she's taller and more slender than the version we saw in Fontaine's story quest. Hoyoverse rarely makes last-minute model adjustments, so this sudden change to Skirk has sparked plenty of discussion. Some believe it's a simple visual refinement, while others think it signals a larger shift in how the game's character designs are evolving. To make her stand out more, Hoyoverse has deliberately refined Skirk's overall shape and proportions to highlight her mysterious and powerful nature. As a swordswoman shrouded in mystery, her newly adjusted proportions give her a more striking and commanding presence. Unlike her initial model, which followed the standard medium female template, this change makes her feel more distinct, further enhancing the lore and aesthetic appeal tied to her character. This shift also raises the question of whether Hoyoverse is finally moving away from its standard body models and starting to embrace more variety in character designs. With Varesa sporting a noticeably thicker build and Iansan standing taller than other small female characters, Skirk's unique proportions could be further evidence of a shift toward more diverse and distinct character designs. Varesa has already introduced a noticeably thicker build compared to other medium female characters, while Iansan stands taller than the usual small female units. Now, with Skirk receiving her own unique proportions, it seems like Hoyoverse is making a conscious effort to introduce more variation in character designs. For years, players have pointed out the repetitive nature of body models, and if this trend continues, it could mean more diverse and unique visual styles for future characters. If this is where Hoyoverse is headed, we could finally be entering an era where every new character feels like a true standout, no more recycled designs. Imagine pulling for a character not just because of their kit, but because they look so fresh and exciting that you just can't resist. At this rate, our Primo Gems are in serious danger. A lot of players have wanted more variation in character models for years, so if this is the start of a new trend, it's definitely something to be excited about. So, with all the reveals, surprises, and last-minute changes, we've got a lot to process. Whether you're hyped for Varesa's electrifying combat, intrigued by Iansan's unique mechanics, or curious about Skirk's transformation, one thing's for sure: this update is bringing some serious excitement. But now comes the big question. Are your Primogems safe, or are they about to disappear faster than a hilichurl running from a 5-star burst? Varesa is taking the beta community by storm, and honestly, it's easy to see why. She's fast, she's flashy, and her gameplay feels ridiculously smooth. If you're into high-energy, aggressive combat, she's got you covered. With insane plunging attack combos and an elemental burst that packs a serious punch, she's shaping up to be an absolute must-pull for Electro fans. Now, Iansan, she's a bit of a head-scratcher. On paper, her buff is insanely powerful, but in practice, it's like playing The Floor is Lava. You have to keep moving non-stop to keep it active. While that might seem interesting at first, it ends up making team building a real headache. She just doesn't gel with stationary buffs like Bennett's, which means a lot of traditional team setups are out the window. If Hoyoverse makes her buff a little easier to maintain, she could be a fantastic support. But as of now, she's a risky pick unless you're running a team that can fully take advantage of her unique mechanics. And then there's Skirk, who just got a surprise glow-up. Originally, she was set to have the standard medium female model, but Hoyoverse decided to tweak her proportions before release. She's now taller and more refined, giving her an even more mysterious and commanding presence. Whether this signals a new direction for character design or is just a one-time change, one thing's for sure, Skirk is turning heads, and her release is going to be huge. And that's everything you need to know. We've broken it all down, and now it's decision time. Are you pulling for Varesa, Iansan, or Skirk? Or are you holding on to your primo gems for someone else? Let me know in the comments, and I will meet you in the next one.